society has come out against moves by the present government to regulate media, including social media space. Addressing pressmen in Abuja today on the state of the nation, shrinking media and civil space in Nigeria, Executive Director of Resources Center for Human Rights and Civil Education, Comrade Dr. Ibrahim Sikrulai, says the key proposal put forward for the amendment of the Press Council Act are meant to turn the independent media into a lapdog of the government in power. He calls on everyone to keep up the good fight to preserve the right of free speech and open society so that we can have a just and verdant world.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is no mistaking the fact that if the independent media in Nigeria could surmount those dark and terrible days of military dictatorship, there is no reason why it will not overcome the renewed onslaught by political actors led by Lai Mohammed, who appears to have reached the disturbing conclusion that gagging the media and shrinking the civic space are the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. In the face of serious governance challenges, such as chronic insecurity, mass unemployment, crumbling infrastructure, unbridled corruption, and extreme poverty, political actors across the federal and state levels appear fixated on taming the media instead of tackling pervasive social and economic problems facing Nigerians. It is pertinent to note that since the All Progressive Congress, APC, took over power at the federal level in 2015, it has spent enormous energy, time, and resources trying to undermine freedom of speech. The government at the center has exhibited crass and excessive passion of putting forward legislations and policies whose sole objective is to stifle freedom of expression and muzzle the press and civil society. Apart from the surreptitious introduction of previous harsh legislations, which attempted to give sweeping powers to government to curtail the right of citizens, the government has continually shown intolerance to views and perspectives which do not align with its own. These tendencies clearly make it evident that the current regime brooks no contrary view. From the way the government has carried on, therefore, diversity of voices and plurality of opinions appear to be anathema. The disposition of the current regime to free speech, contrary views, and dissent is a clear message to the media and civic groups to brace up for the struggle ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, apparently, after the universally condemned ban on the operations of microblogging site Twitter, the government has now shifted its focus to the amendment of the Nigeria Press Council Act. From the details of the proposed amendment, there can be no doubt that the intentions are not noble, but repulsive. The key proposals put forward for the amendment of the Press Council Act are meant to turn the independent media into the lapdog of the government in power. It is therefore apparent that those who put forward these amendments were not thinking in terms of how the press can better deliver on its constitutionally sanctioned mandate of holding power to account and promoting good governance. Section 3C of the proposed amendment presents a good example of the desperation of the current government to do everything within its power to tie the press to its apron strings. The particular section states, with the approval of the minister in charge of information, establish and disseminate a national press code to guide the conduct of print media, related media houses, and media practitioners. What this section is saying in essence is that it is the Minister of Information, a political partisan interested in skewing media coverage to make the government look good, that should approve what constitutes quality journalism through a press code. By putting an interested partisan at the helm of the approval process, The proposed amendment has shown that the real motive is to cow the press and control it as political actors deem fit. Subsequently, another odious section of the proposed amendment is Section 3F, which states, with the approval of the minister, grant print media and other related licenses to any application worthy of such. What this implies, therefore, is that if Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information, does not feel your application for a media license is worthy, probably because you have criticized the government in the past, your application will be rejected outrightly. It's important to point out that CRASED is not against regulation, which would address some of the challenges or gaps constraining the roles of a free press, including the threat posed by fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. CRASED is also not unmindful of the very difficult environment in which our distinguished colleagues in the press operate. There are welfare issues which regulations can help address, but they look aside because it doesn't matter to them. If it is done with a sincere, patriotic, and forthright intention. However, we cannot let a government that has shown its intolerance to freedom of expression use regulation in quote to pull the wool over the eyes of our citizens. As stakeholders whose engagement with the Nigerian citizens depend on a free, vibrant, and independent press, we must pull all the stops to ensure that repressive provisions aimed at gagging the press are exposed, denounced, and done away with. In this regard, CRASED commends the activities of media and civil society organizations which have made substantial efforts to put this issue on the forefront of the public discourse. We particularly commend colleagues at the Premier Times Center for Investigative Journalism, the International Press Center, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, and the many other free speech campaigners who have been devoting time and energy to defend the right to freedom of expression. The federal government, led by President Muhammadu Buhari at the National Assembly, must understand the danger of what they have been doing. Many of those who populate the government today were a few years ago in the opposition. If there was no freedom of expression, would they have been able to sell their ideas, including their many unfulfilled promises to the Nigerian people? The lesson those in power today need to learn, therefore, is that power and everything connected to it is transient and ephemeral. If some of the draconian laws they are proposing become reality, they will one day be out of power, only for those same laws to be used against them. Nonetheless, beyond expressing outrage about the attempts to cow the independent media, CRASED believes where many citizens and groups must come to terms with the reality that the battle line has been drawn. And it is time to evolve strategies which would ensure the press does not become the appendage of political power, which is bent on rendering it important. Together, ladies and gentlemen, we must keep up the good fight to preserve the right to free speech and open society so that we can have a just and better world.
Gbemiga Olamikon reporting for GTV Africa.